Radio, hello and welcome to this season preview for the New FM Northern League 1 2017 season. I'm Ty Stedman, and this I guess is a Newysports show. This is not Newysports TV. It's a special sort of one-off look at the season preview, looking ahead to what might happen this season, what I think will happen this season. We're going to time these as well, so this isn't just going to go forever. I'm just trying to think where to start. First of all, apologies if there's a cricket or cicada or whatever the hell they're called. There's always one of those in this room every time I try and record a video. Perhaps get an exterminator over or something could be a goal for the next few weeks. Anyway, what we're going to do, we're going to start with the under-15s competition. That's what we're going to do. I'm only going to talk about it for a couple minutes. Obviously, I haven't really paid too much attention to who's in which team that, because it's not going to be a comp that we see during the year, and indeed I think even the grand finals on a different day. But nonetheless, based on what I know and what I've heard and what I've seen for the under-15s, as I said, I'm just going to put it out there. Teams that will struggle: Belmont, Swansea, Cessnock City, South Cardiff. All of those still wanting numbers. Cessnock just doesn't look great. Belswans 10-1 at New Lambton the other night, and that's a gripe of mine with this under-15s competition, is that there's teams who just aren't prepared for it, and half the comp's going to be decent, half's going to be not decent, and I think as a result this year is probably a bit of a write-off year. It's still, working the competition. Same thing with the 17s. It took a couple of years to get it going, I guess. But yeah, look, that's all I can say about those teams. Cookshill, Singleton, Thornton, mid-table. Cookshill, another one that we're looking for a couple of players. I mean, they're the biggest junior club apart from New Lambton in the competition, so I don't know why they're looking for players. Top 4, Toronto, I've heard they're okay, but I haven't seen them, so who knows. Wallsend, I think, are good. And then there's 3 teams who I would say in the 15s are going to challenge for the title: Kahibah, New Lambton and West Wallsend. Results have been good. Kahibah's team on paper is a very good one. They play some good football. New Lambton the same. And Westy, well, they have a hell of a team in all of the lower grades. 19s, 17s and 15s. That's all I'm going to say about the under-15s. We'll move on to the 17s, where we'll talk about Belswans first. I'm going to talk about, hang on, let me think. I'm going to talk about each team for about 30 seconds or so. So we're going to start on Belswans 17s, who have gone mid-table finish. I've only seen them once. They've lost a lot of players, and that's about it for now. Pre-season hasn't been... It's very hard to judge on pre-season for these sort of grades. Belswans 17s, I'm just going to go mid-table, just like last year. Cessnock City in the 17s, I've gone low for a low finish. I haven't seen them play, but based on last year, based on the fact that they've lost 1 or 2 players, I'm just going to say that they're going to struggle. Who knows though? Who knows at Cessnock, because it's a complete mystery. Another team for mid-table in the 17s is New Lambton. Another team I have seen play, but again they didn't really, there's a few teams on this list that really stood out to me in pre-season. That might change. They've got Westy this week. It's a big challenge in the 17s for New Lambton. We will see how they go. Singleton's another one mid-table. They've lost Trey Proudlock, Brad Fairclough. James Croucher, I think, has gone to 19s. Hamish Maylett, I'm pretty sure, would have gone to 19s. So it's, if he's still there, he might be. I think he is. Anyway, Singleton mid-table. 3 teams that I think will struggle in the 17s. South Cardiff, the first of those, have just, again, haven't really set the world alight during pre-season. Toronto is another one who, on second-hand info, don't look the greatest of lineups. I haven't seen them play, so who knows, but it's Toronto, so a lot of their good 17s have gone to 19s, so we'll see how that happens. Thornton 17s, I can't see them doing much this season based on what I've seen, and I have seen a bit, and that's really about it. This has to be, it has to be very persuasive, not persuasive, this just has to be very to the point, because these are the season predictions and I'm predicting things, so I will write teams off and hopefully that'll spur a few teams up to start the season well. The teams who will do well in the 17s, I've got my top 4 already. I don't know what order, but Wallsend and Cookshill will be 3rd and 4th, or 4th and 3rd. Wallsend 17s very good last year and still got a decent lineup on paper, some good players. I don't know though, who knows. Cookshill is one that also I saw in pre-season, they had half the team out, but again, Cookshill's the last 2 years in the 17s have been very, very good. The top 2 and the teams to beat in the under 17s are West Wallsend and Kahibah. To put one over the other, I would probably have to go with Kahibah on paper, although West Wallsend admittingly do have a very, very good 17s lineup. So actually I'd change that. I think I would. I think if you were to say if it was Westy and Kahibah in the grand final of the 17s, based on what I know, based on what I've seen, I would say Westy would win, because West Wallsend have a very good team on paper. Kahibah do, but attacking wise I think Westy just have that better squad, and I think they also have better defensive players as well. But we'll see what happens, Kahibah and Westy for the top 2 in the under 17s grade. We'll move on to the 19s, where again I'm not going to predict actual positions. I will do that for first grade but not for the lower grades. I'm just going to say what I think will happen to some teams. 3 teams I've picked who are going to struggle and in my mind be playing for the wooden spoon are Cessnock, South Cardiff and Thornton. Cessnock, Kel Lund, the coach, and apparently what I've been told and from what I've known, they haven't played a trial match that I know of. I don't know what they're going to offer. I don't know who's in their team, but Cessnock 19s need a big improvement on the last couple of years. South Cardiff's another one who decent players, some of them, but I think they've just lost a couple from last year that were very good, and I'm not sure how it's going to work at Southie, but again they're a real mystery bunch out there. They've been a very quiet sort of club during the pre-season. Thornton 19s are ones that really they've got a couple players who are really good, like Josh Davies up front. It's all about teamwork, and I left a game at half-time the other night, Thornton 19s against Maitland's only. I don't leave games early, but I did because I just wasn't really impressed with the football. And to be fair though, there's some good people at Thornton. Like I'm just saying their football is not really at where I think it should be to be pushing this 19s competition based on pre-season alone. That's pretty much it. Mid-table, Singleton, I've just thrown them in there, so 7th, 8th. They've got some good players, as I said, Proudlock, Fairclough. I can't think of any others off the top of my head because I don't do a very good job at remembering names, not this time of the year anyway. Singleton just mid-table because they didn't really impress me in the one game I saw of them, but that being said, I think they will probably be in the finals race. Talking about teams in the finals races, finals race for the 19s. God, this is a great video, isn't it? Belmont Swansea, on paper a team that should be competing for the premiership. There's no doubt about that. But based on what I saw against Adamstown in pre-season, I have to say I'm not quite sure it's all there. But I should really change that because that is a brilliant team on paper, that Belswans team, and I tell you what, I think they'll make the top 4, and I'm going to say that about a lot of teams in the 19s because it is, I think, the 19s the competition that is going to be the best. the most competitive this season, and indeed it was last season as well. For Kahibah, I've got finals race as well. Kahibah 19's a good team on paper, but I think there's got to be some questions asked attacking wise. I'm not sure if they're up to the level of some of the other teams. Your Josh Knights and I guess even Maurice Bocelli at New Lambton, Joel Nicholson at Belswans. Kahibah, I feel there's still questions to be asked, but I think they'll be in the finals race. The same can be said for Toronto, a really good team on paper, but I think there's questions that also need to be asked, that also need to be answered during the year. Lindsay Jamison as coach, and again he's had the 19s for 2 years in a row, and I think they've only won 3 or 4 games, so it's all about getting that team. I think they've got the potential to work well as a unit, but whether that comes to fruition or not is the question. And again, this is where I'm going to start being a little bit controversial, a little bit ruthless. Wallsend I've got in the finals race. Good team on paper. Jacob Ray, it's really all about him up front. But then again, there's Newysports, there's the other winger, I can't remember his name. I think he was at South Cardiff. I just can't remember. And then your midfielders, your Callum Garbutt's and Matthias Shoemaker as well is one to watch there at Wallsend. Defensively, Jai Hancock's good, but at the back, I think there's better goalkeepers out there than Matt Pennington in the 19s, and I think that's going to be a test for Wallsend. And I feel like I'm being really, really harsh on Pennington, but I've got to be really truthful, and that's why I haven't put him in the 4, because I look at the squad across the park. And but that being said, who the hell knows? Matt Pennington might have a really, really quality season after comments like that might fire up certain individual players. Talking about firing up individual players, Cooks Hill United, I've got top 4 in the 19s, and anything less is unacceptable. For that team, on paper, Michael Best knows how to get a side into a finals race. He was very unlucky not to get his 17s back in finals last year. The year before they got to the semis, or they got to the grand final the year before. So Michael Best knows exactly what he's doing with some of the players he's got there. Dalton, Guest, and a few others staying on there at Cooks Hill. But it's some of these ex-NPL guys that excite me the most. Nicholas Fakes and Dylan McGarrigle, and those sort of players I think are going to be the difference for Cooks Hill 19s. This is a team on paper that is as good as any in the competition. New Lambton, I've got top 4, but the more I think about it, the more I think maybe finals race, maybe not top 4. 19s is a very, very difficult comp. There's 7 or 8 teams I want to say will make the top 4 or push for it. So that says that it's going to be a good competition. New Lambton, this team's looked really good during pre-season, the couple of games I've seen. Bocelli, Maurice Bocelli, that is, good player. They've got a really good unit of players, and I think if they click, if Tony Gascoigne can get them to click and find their true potential, then who knows what the end result could be. I still haven't seen enough defensively or from goalkeeper Ryan Fuller to know exactly, it's very hard to judge in pre-season. I think attacking wise, I'm expecting a lot. Defence, I'm still a little bit on the fence about. We'll move on to the next team, and the last team in this, and the team that I'm going to say are the premiership favourites in the under-19s. It is West Wallsend. And I said the same about the 17s. If West Wallsend don't win some sort of silverware, whether it be minor or major, in the 17s or 19s, then this year I think is a failure. Last year, the 2 grand finals, they have to build on that. This 19s team is absolute brilliance on paper. Steve Thompson's got a lot of good players to choose from, and I think they are the team to beat. And I tell you what, this game, Westy and New Lambton on Saturday in the 19s, is one of the best season openers in a lower grade fixture I can remember over the last 3 years. In the under 23s, this is where it gets difficult, because this competition, you can just grab a 11-sided coin if they exist and just flip it every which way, because who really knows? And that is the under 23s grade. It's not a favourite of mine, people know that, because it's so hard to predict when there's players in and out. Anyway, 2 teams I think will struggle, 2 teams that did struggle last year. One of those, Toronto, just on paper, they don't really, I just don't see them doing much this year. And that might piss them off, but this is what this video is about. Wallsend, some of the games they played last year in the 23s was just absolutely just disgraceful. That 7-0 loss at the Gardens, again, I don't know. I've got to say some teams will finish last, and those 2 teams I think will be doing it, or competing for it. Mid-table, I got Cessnock, because who knows? Lino Gaddy's first grade and 23s together, I think they've only got 20 players. That's what I've been told. And again, this video is as real as it gets, and it's going to get a lot more real when I start talking about first grade. But Cessnock still needed a handful of players. I don't know who's going to be playing in this 23s. I don't know if it's going to be the younger guys, your James Collinses, your Riley Taylors, those sort of guys. I don't know. So I'm going mid-table for now. Singleton mid-table. They could be potentially pushing for finals. And look, honestly, you go back and look at the 23s last year, the finals race, absolutely, I'm not going to say brilliant, because there were so many teams drawing and stuff, but it was really close, and no team could really hit that top form except for Lakes, who would go and win the whole thing anyway. Wallsend mid-table as well, looking excited. I'm excited to see this team play. I'm excited to see how Jackson Manning, Darcy Hall, and players like that cope in a more senior grade for the whole season, which I think that's where they're going to be staying. Right, for the finals race, I've got Belswans. That's all I can really add, but I think the more I think about this team, the more I think maybe they will be in the top 4. They've got some decent players, and that's about it for Belswans 23s at the moment. Dan Rufo is a coach. Defensively, I think they'll be a lot more improved under Rufo. He knows what he's doing. I think they'll be good. Kahibah, another one that I want to say is going to finish in the top 4, but if there's one Kahibah team that I really don't know how they're going to go, it's the 23s. They haven't looked great during pre-season. They played Barrow yesterday. They still didn't really look that great. There's still a few structural issues and player combinations, all that sort of stuff. Brendan Trummell up front, I think is going to be key for them. I think it's good to have him there. And but again, there's some players in this team. Matty Parker's one of them that's come into Kahibah and done a really good job. Alex Evans, of course, and there'll be people out there saying you can't rate Alex Evans, but when he's on, he's actually a decent player. I'll give him that much. The same for Jez Turner. These are players who last year just, if they had kept consistent, they would have made finals. And unfortunately, they started the year slowly. We'll see how they go at Toronto next week. That should be a must-win. That's a must-win fixture for them, as far as I'm concerned. South Cardiff, I've got in the finals race. Again, this 23s comp, Southie last year made the GF. They've still got a few players left from that, but again, I've only seen them play one game, so who the hell knows? Thornton, I've got in the finals race, but they have lost some players. Seeing Connor Morgan and James Wand pop up at Wallsend left me scratching my head a little bit. Wee Man's there at Thornton, so that's enough entertainment in itself. And look, honestly, Wee Man knows what it takes to get the finals. Look at Cessnock a couple of years ago in the semi-finals. It's a very hard competition to predict. I keep going back to that. But I'll say that there's two teams that I think are bound for the top four. Cooks Hill United, one of those, very, very good team on paper. Ben Nichols, the coach. And New Lambton, who, against Kahibah a couple of weeks ago, they did look very, very good. Stephen Shute in particular was one that impressed me. Anyway, now the moment has come, we can drop all that. Apologies to anyone I offended. If I bagged you, just go out there and do well and shut me up. That's basically the best you can do. And then I'll be praising you. So who knows, this video might actually help a few teams along, I don't know. Enough of that, let's talk about first grade, and I'm going to spend probably a minute on each team. What I have for first grade is I have first, second, third, fourth. Then I have 3 teams in mid-table. You can just say any of them could push for finals. A finals race, if you will. And then I've got teams 8th, 9th, 10th, and indeed 11th. So we're going to start at the bottom. And look, this is as real as it gets. The team I think who will finish last this season is Toronto-Kahibah. And that's about it. On paper, they've got some decent players in, but there are huge questions that need to be asked about this team and their mentality. The last few years have been poor. Adam Routledge is untested as a first grade head coach. There are players in this squad that have, I'm going to say, they don't like losing. Adam Routledge is one who doesn't like losing. I think Toronto, if things do get ugly, things might get very ugly. And what I mean by that is form might just go right out the window. I don't really know. And I really want Toronto to succeed this year because they really need a big year to restore some pride. That's the minute, that's where I'm moving on. 10th place, Wallsend. This isn't just based on the Cooks Hill result. Look, that was nothing, okay? That was a reserve. But look, Yarry Rose had players in and out, and there's no real solidity about what Westy are going to do or not do this season. Discipline's still up in the air. I don't know if that's going to be improved. And look, on paper there are a lot of other teams that are better on paper. There are players at Westy who are good players, and they should be doing better than what they did last year, and they should be doing better than 10th. But it's all about applying that and playing for the coach, for the badge. Wallsend, this is an important year for them, but I can't see them doing too much at this rate. 9th place, South Cardiff. And this was a tough one, and this is one that could change because Dennis Fajkovic, it's completely up in the air. It's unproven what Faj is going to bring to this club, but it's not an impressive team on paper. They had a very worrying result against Raymond Terrace the other night of Zone League 1. I just don't know. I really don't. There are teams who I think will be in the top 4, and then there's teams who I just aren't sure on, and Southie's one of those. I'm not writing them off like I have with Westy and Toronto, but South Cardiff, they've got to take that next step, and they did a similar thing last season. They were good at times. Yeah, I'm not really sure what they're going to do at South Cardiff, and that'll probably fire them up a little bit. That's what this video is for. 8th place, I've got Lino Gaddy's Cessnock City Hornets, and I don't know, and I don't know if Lino knows. We had him in here a couple weeks back talking about it. They're relying on youth. They're a thin squad. Lino would admit that himself. this isn't a season where they're looking at finishing fourth. They're looking to restore some pride on and off the field. Playing Edgeworth on the weekend, I was so proud to see some of those Cessnock players getting out there on that park against the NPL champions. I thought that was a great moment for the club, result aside. But again, if you're going to ask me where is Cessnock going to finish this year, I'm going to say I'm not too sure at this moment. But if they can produce what Lino wants them to produce, they will push for the top four, and I'll leave it at that. Teams who I think will push for finals. I'm going to say right now I'm going to have a top three, and then I'm going to say one team in fourth. But teams who I think will be there or thereabouts when the time comes: New Lambton Eagles, Andrew Packer's side. They're back in the competition. They've got nothing to lose, everything to prove. And yeah, who knows? On paper, probably not the best lineup of the teams in this mid-table sort of region, but they've got some handy players. They've got some experienced players. They've got some younger players who can sort of excel under Packer. Pax himself knows about this competition from last season. New Lambton, I just think they're a side to watch, and they should have beat Kahibah 3 weeks ago now, whenever that was. It's going to be very interesting on Saturday. I'm really looking forward to it, New Lambton versus West Wallsend. We'll move on to the Thornton Redbacks, who I think are a few people's pick for that fourth position. Everyone's got an established top three. Mine's exactly the same as yours, for those people who are thinking in the same mindset as myself. Thornton are a side that can definitely make finals, but can they? That's the question. That's what this is all about. It's consistency. It's 22 weeks, or 20 weeks with the 2 byes, 20 games. You've got to stay consistent if you want to make finals. And Thornton started last year slowly. That's what killed them. But Darryl McAllister, there's no doubt there at Thornton. Finals is it. That's the target this year. They've had 2 seasons now where they've pushed but didn't get there in the end. And I think this is a year where Thornton are really going to take that next step. They're a very difficult side to beat when they get going, and especially at Thornton Park on their day, they are one of the best teams in the competition. Wallsend FC, I'm not going to lie, before this weekend I had them probably 8th, 9th, but after seeing them at the Heritage Cup and just seeing a bit more structure, a bit more belief, I just can't. You know, Wallsend FC have this mentality. It's what won them the title the last 2 years of always producing their very best when people think they're not going to. This is a team that will not win the title this year. I'm going to say that right now. They've lost too many players, but the players that have come in there, I think they're just going to be playing with a real strong culture, real good vibes at Wallsend. Few youth players will probably sneak into first grade throughout the year. Interesting side to watch, and if they do get to finals, I don't think they'll win the title, but this is Wallsend FC we're talking about, so you can never really write them off. Next up, Singleton Strikers, David Willoughby's Singleton Strikers. Just like Thornton, I think this is a year that the Singleton team can really push on what they've built, and they've still got a side with boom youngsters in it. Nathan Hall, Jackson Skinner, they've got Stewie at the back in goals, Jackson Cox, I think he's playing. I haven't seen an updated squad list, so I'm just going to assume he's still there. The captain, or former captain now, it's Stewie's captain, but Sam Ford up front. Singleton, very, very good team. And if you're going to say out of Singleton, Wallsend, Thornton or New Lambton, who would I say is going to finish 4th? At this rate, I'd say Singleton. And it's all about building a fortress up there at Howe Park, and it's all about their away form, it's all about consistency. And that's what David Willoughby will be hammering into his players' heads ahead of next week's season opener at Belswans, or at Macquarie Field, I should say. Now the top 3. 3rd, Cooks Hill United. I spoke to Graham Law earlier today, and he just said to me, you know, it's still a work in progress, but I think on paper this team is as good as any in the competition. And Cookshill, in my mind, they have gone and just brought in an entire new first grade team, and they've done that the last few years. They can't keep doing that, but this year for Cookshill United, it simply has to work, and on paper it should work. What they did to West Wallsend the other week was just pure demolishment. There's some good players here, there's some experienced players, they know what they're doing. Graham Law's a very experienced coach. Cookshill United, I think, are a massive title contender in 2017. Second place, Belmont-Swansea, and of course the runners-up from last season. It's a big year for Josh Rufo. He's back in the competition after leaving Wallsend midway through last year. Belswans have got a few new players. They've lost some players as well going into this season. So there's a lot of questions to be asked. They weren't answered during pre-season. You can't judge on pre-season. But Belmont-Swansea, I think they're just going to take a couple weeks to find their best. I really do. But when they do find their best, they are a massive contender for the title. After what happened last year, that penalty shootout loss, there will be many at Belmont-Swansea United who will be eyeing off that grand prize late in August / early September, whenever the grand final is this year. Belmont-Swansea are a definite top 4 side. But the side that I've got on top, the side that, again, I'm playing for this team on Friday night, so again, I'm at this club, so you're going to call me biased, some out there will. Kahibah FC, on paper, this team is as good, if not better, than any team in the competition. David Hodgson is just a serial trophy winner. He knows, he's been experienced in winning silverware with Wallsend. The Kepo brothers as well, Tim Davies. Look, these additions, Jamie Hadlow, like, this was a team last year that on paper was as good as any in the league, and if anything, they've gone that next step, and they've still got better football to play than they have been in pre-season. The big test for me, for Kahibah, is what happens if it doesn't work out. If there's games where they lose, I have a feeling they're going to get really, really frustrated. The likes of Gumprecht, Hodgson, Gottschalk, Shalaba. There's a lot of, even Nick Hartnett in goals. There's a lot of people that are just full on about football. And for Kahibah, if things are a little bit not going well, then they might just be a bit shaky. But I think that's the only test for them. If they keep consistent, then they're favourites for the minor premiership. Winning a possible grand final, that's a whole nother story. They've got semi-final exits in the back of their mind from the last 2 seasons. But if I was going to pick anyone for the minor premiership, I'd say Kahibah at this stage. So that's pretty much that. That's my predictions. I'm going to get a lot of feedback for this. At this point, I don't really care. It's what I do. I have to make these predictions. This is what people have been waiting for. But again, whatever happens this weekend, round 1 will start a 22-week journey, and there are some teams. Look, anyone who I've written off, whether it be 15s, first grade, 23s, whatever, any team I've written off, go back to last year and see what I said about Belmont-Swansea United and see what they did. That's all I've got to say about these previews. The very best of luck to all 55 competing teams in the UFM Northern League 1 this season. It's going to be a big season. It's going to be a very hectic season. I'm going to try and bring you every single goal scorer, and for that I need teams to bring me goal scorers, send me results. And this content coverage this season is going to be, I'm hoping, better than last year, and last year was really good. So it all starts on Saturday, West Wallsend, or should I say New Lambton versus West Wallsend at West Wallsend, New Lambton the home side, and then the Gallagher Shield on Sunday, Wallsend and South Cardiff. it's back. It's been a long wait. And to be completely honest, I'll be damn happy to just stop talking about pre-season form, because none of it's about to matter, because round one's about to kick off, and these predictions, they could be turned upside down. Who bloody knows? Toronto might finish the round on top of the table. Who knows? It's all there to win. It's all there to lose. Good luck to all the teams, and I will see you in the next video.